This video covers the installation of the iLIFT actuator for the 2017 and later Acura NSX. See the instruction manual included with the iLIFT system for complete instructions. With the shock absorber removed from the vehicle, cut off the wire band clip. Next, with a hook tool, pull out the retainer from the connector. Identify the black wire position and mark it with a marker. Using a terminal removal tool or a fine flat blade screwdriver, insert the tool between the terminal retainer and carefully pry up while pulling the wire from the rear of the connector. Repeat the same process for the other side, then pull out both terminals. With a pick, remove the rubber seal as shown. A wall-mounted spring compressor, like the Brannick Model 7600 used here, will be used to compress the spring. Lower the fingers of the compressor so that they rest on the top mount. Note the rubber hose installed on the fingers to prevent scratching. Compress the spring by about 1 inch. Slip the wires through the supplied socket attached to an impact driver to free the nut. If the nut does not loosen and the shock absorber shaft begins to spin, stop and inspect the nut for corrosion and apply penetrating oil as needed. Be very careful while removing the nut to not cut the wires with the socket. Don't allow the shaft to rotate in the body of the shock absorber or the shock absorber may be damaged. Remove the nut by hand as shown. Remove the shock absorber as shown and remove the assembly from the compressor. Clean the shock absorber for installation of the iLIFT components. The shock can be placed in a vise with soft jaws to hold it in place. Install the required spacer depending on the ride height requirement. Next, install the aluminum lower mount, making sure that the correct front or rear lower mount is selected. Next, plastic lower spring bushing. Then, the aluminum top cap. Finally, install the supplied spring, making sure that the correct front or rear spring is installed. Install the supplied cone installation tool as shown. Install the top spring bushing as shown, then install the bump stop into the dust boot as shown. Press the bump stop into the actuator's piston until fully seated. Carefully thread the wires through the actuator as shown to pull the wires through. Ensure the dust boot is installed properly and has not come off the bump stop, and carefully guide the dust boot around the shock absorber. Lightly place the actuator onto the cone tool, but do not press down on the actuator at this time. Install the assembly into the spring compressor while supporting the bottom of the shock absorber to prevent it from falling through. Place the bottom fingers of the spring compressor under the lower mount. Place the top fingers of the spring compressor around the edge of the actuator as shown, allowing enough room for the top mount to be installed. Once in place, compress the actuator about 1 inch while supporting the shock. Once compressed, push up to expose the shock absorber shaft. Install the supplied cone spacer, then remove the cone installation tool. Install the top mount as shown. Thread on the nut, then tighten by hand. Tighten the nut until it bottoms out. Do not allow the shaft to spin in the shock absorber body. Remove the assembly from the compressor. Guide the terminals through the rubber seal and install the rubber seal as shown. Next, insert the wires into the connector in the orientation shown, making sure that the black wire is on the side marked. Reinstall the retainer by pushing in with a tool. The actuator installation is now complete.